Alright, hey guys, welcome back to another Fire Emblem Heroes character spotlight. In this episode, we're going to be revisiting Elise. Now, I did an Elise spotlight a really long time ago. Well, I wouldn't say a super long time ago, but it was one of the first spotlights that I ever released on this channel. And back then, I spotlighted, I believe, an Assault build, where essentially I tried to make her a healer that was still able to fend for herself, which was something that you didn't see a lot of back then. So she could deal a decent amount of damage, but also still support your teammates with healing. And, I will admit that it was one of the weaker builds that I've shown off, but you gotta also realize that back then, healers were really weak. So, now that they have the weapon refinery stuff that buffed healers by a really decent amount, I felt like I should revisit this character. And, as I explored, I found this really super cool build, and I kind of wanted to go over it. Now, before I go over this build, I want to, take you guys on a little journey here. Let's tell you a story about how I ended up here. So, I've scrapped recordings in the past. During the Lloyd Spotlight, I scrapped my entire first Lloyd Spotlight because I felt like Lloyd wasn't shown off enough, so I scrapped it, and then I did another one, and in that one, I could show off the strengths and weaknesses of Lloyd better. With Elise's case, I did an entire spotlight on her, but it was without the double Savage Blow, and I was mainly using her in the same way that I used her before, as like an assault kind of character that just happened to have the gravity stuff. And, I went through all that, it was kind of excuse me. And then I get to the last map. And in the last map, all the enemies have really high res, so she's not able to do any damage to them, and I can't really get my units in there to be able to kill them. However, she's able to pretty much infinitely stall them because of Gravity Plus. And, I do that, and I realize, wait a second, I could do something with this. I had an epiphany. So I scrapped the entire thing, scrapped the video, and decided to work on this build. And here we are. And I actually also recorded a video yesterday showing off this exact build. But guess what? I had so much fun using the build that I actually ended up going over my recording time. And my recording app just ended halfway through the video. So I couldn't use it because I was playing so much matches because I was having so much fun with this build that I just kept playing over the time limit. And, that sucks. I couldn't show it off. I had a lot of really good games. But there's one thing in specific about that session. I didn't take a single point of damage on any of my units during the entire session. I'm going to try to make that a challenge for myself this time around. I'm going to try to take 0 damage on any of my units during this entire session. So let's see if we can show off how this build works and how I can accomplish that. So here we have super stalling, chunking Elise. This kind of uses gravity and double Savage Blow, but we'll get to that, and we'll talk about each one of the skills by itself first, and we'll try to do it at a brisk pace because I don't want to go over the recording limit again. So here we have Gravity Plus. This is like the meat of the build. You're not going to be able to do it without the staff. I'll talk about a couple of the staffs as I tell my story for how I got to Gravity Plus. Like I said before, I ran an Assault build, and I also ran an Absorb build for PvE. And, the changes came out, and I was thinking, I'm going to get Absorb Plus on Elise, and I'm just going to make her, like a better version of the previous one. And then I realized that I have to promote a healer to 5 stars in order to inherit Absorb Plus on Elise. And I wasn't really feeling that, so I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna upgrade Assault Gravity Plus instead, because Elise comes with Gravity, and I'll use this until I can get Absorb Plus. I'll use her kind of like the same way that I used Assault Elise, with just a little bit of extra bonus tagged on. And one thing I will say about Absorb Plus, I'm not actually a fan of the direction they took with it, but I understand why, and we'll talk about that. So, I feel like Absorb was one of the few selfish staffs that you could give a healer to kind of make them better in themselves rather than just improving their teammates even more. And I really liked that because I felt like it gave healers some flavor. But with the changes, they did buff its might, so it is an objectively better staff. However, the extra bonus that they had tagged onto it was like a breath of life. And I didn't like that because I feel like it cements healers as supporty characters that can't be like more like self-sustaining type stuff, you know. And you know that's fine. You know, I think that's a good path that they took because you know it's nice to have specific things that you guys are good for, right? I don't know. It kind of stinks, you know. I would have liked if Absorb Plus had like you know I don't know a higher percentage of health that you deal or damage that you deal getting back as health or something like that. But it's kind of cemented as a support thing. The same with most of the other stuff. You know, healers are now kind of like cemented as more supporty units. And another thing, actually, I kind of don't like that they didn't come out with an Assault Plus. Again, I understand why, but, you know, come on, it would have been cool to have a healer staff that focuses exclusively on high damage. That would have been cool. But yeah, so I get to Gravity Plus. The idea is here, I have the Dazzling Staff Refinement on this staff. So you hit somebody with Gravity Plus, and then it decreases them and all the enemies around them's movement to 1. Now, you know, everybody talks about this, but movement is the best stat in Fire Emblem, all Fire Emblem. It's the reason that cavalry teams are super good. It's the reason that people run Armor March on armor teams. Being able to outmaneuver your opponent is a very strong thing to be able to do. You know, if you have the higher movement, you control the pace of the battle, you control like when you can go in, and you can get the best angle of assault. So decreasing the enemy's movement to 1 and being able to outrun them by a lot is super good, and it allows you to essentially stall enemies since they're going to be shambling at you at the speed of like -0. And then with the Dazzling Staff, it allows you to hit like range units and stuff too. So you can kind of see how this is going to work out, right? You hit an enemy, and then, you know, all the enemies are slowed. And then you can, you know, reposition Elise, dance her away or whatever out of their range. And then the next turn, you hit them again. They're all slowed. And then you hit them again, and you hit them again, and you hit them again. Yeah. So here we have Recover Plus. I guess I'll take the time to talk about the changes to the healer's assist skills as well. That's another thing about healers. I feel like they have the best tools in the game. Like, for example, let's take Absorb, since I talked about that. An Absorb staff is essentially Soul, which is a 3-charge special, except it procs every time you hit. And that's really good. Imagine a normal weapon with that. Then, what was the other example that I was thinking of? Oh, yeah. The Dazzling Staff Refinement is essentially like a Fire Sweep weapon without the negatives of a Fire Sweep weapon that you can't counterattack. Imagine those effects on a normal weapon. They would be absolutely insane. And that's why I say that healers have the best tools in the game. However, to counteract that, they have some of the lowest stats in the game, and they also aren't allowed to run offensive specials or offensive assist skills. They can only run their lame healer stuff. So, you know, yeah, they're held back by that stuff, but it balances them out, you know. So, yeah, going back to that, you can't run something like Reposition on Elise, which I would run, by the way, if I had the option. But I think that the refinements for the assist skills are really good, because they actually allow healers to be healers. Like before the refinements, you know, Renewal and Ardent Sacrifice healers could heal for around the same as normal healers. Like a lot of the normal healers couldn't actually heal that much. You'd see a lot of people run Rehabilitate because it was like the only staff that allowed you to heal for a decent amount relatively frequently. But now with the changes, the healers can actually heal a lot. I believe with the Recover staff, Elise can heal upwards of like 31 or more health, and it only increases with the more attack she gets. So that's pretty good. The special doesn't really matter. I think it's just whatever Elise came with. We'll talk about speed plus 3 and Wrathful Staff 3 in a second. However, let's go to the potatoes for the meat and potatoes of this build, and that is double Savage Blow. We talked about how gravity works out. You hit the enemies and then they're all slowed. But then we get to Savage Blow 3 times 2. This deals 14 damage to all the enemies around the guy that you hit. So it essentially allows you to hit the enemies, slow them down, and chunk them, and then get out of the way. And since you're able to infinitely stall with gravity, you're also able to infinitely chunk with Savage Blow. And then you get all the enemies down to an absurdly low amount of health, and then you can just wipe them out with your team comp. I did the first part in the first video that I recorded. I was able to infinitely stall, but I wasn't able to infinitely chunk. So that's why I came back and I did this build instead. And it's actually been working out very well. And it's important to note that the damage from the double Savage Blow is true damage. It's not affected by defense or res. So it allows you to take out pretty tanky enemies without having to care about that kind of stuff. And it's also why I think that this build is actually super good for upcoming, harder content, because I assume that they're going to be starting to come out with harder and harder content. At least I'd hope so anyway. And when that harder and harder content comes out, it's going to be harder and harder to be able to tank stuff. It's going to be harder to be able to kill guys instantly. So at this build, I don't know if you guys saw my Bound Hero battle video or not, but if you didn't, check it out, and you'll see why you're going to be able to use this build, hopefully, for future content, and you're going to be able to make it a lot easier, because you're able to kind of get to positions that you wouldn't be able to get to otherwise. Like, enemies are positioned on the enemy team in ways that if you just send somebody in and you kill somebody, the other guys are going to be able to collapse on you. They're going to be able to, get your units, so you have to come up with creative ways to get around that, and this is a really nice and creative way to do that. So, I have hopes for the future of this build. Anyway, so we'll talk about why I think Elise is the best character in the game to run this build on, which will get into why Speed plus 3 and Wrathful Staff are on her. Now, first of all, let's just get this out of the way. Mounted healers are the best units to run this build on. If you run an infantry healer, don't. You run this build on a mounted healer instead. If you can't choose Elise, choose another mounted healer at least. The reason for that is something I've already mentioned, actually. Move is the most important stat in the game. So cutting down the enemy's move by 1 is only half of that. Actually having the move to be able to position your units into the right place, being able to hit the right guy, you got to be able to get in there, and having 3 move is way better than having 2 move. You're also able to skirt around the enemy's limited movement range better, find better positioning. So all that stuff combined means that a cavalry healer is going to be better for this than an infantry healer. And then of those cavalry healers, I feel like Elise is the best because she has the best offensive spread. And now the reason for that is that your defensive stats don't actually matter. Because, like I said, I took 0 damage from my entire previous recording, and that's because I have the Dazzling Staff. Enemies shouldn't be actually hitting Elise ever. So why do her defensive stats matter? They don't. Now, the offensive stats, I wouldn't say that they're the most important part of this build. It's the skills that are the most important part of this build. However, the offensive stats actually kind of matter. That's because well, I guess spoilers for the team comp, but we were going to get there anyway. The offensive stats actually kind of matter, and that's because the Savage Blow doesn't hit the enemy that you hit. The only damage on the enemy that you hit is going to be the damage that you deal. So being able to deal that much damage is pretty good. If you don't have the damage, again, you can just keep stalling and rely on the Savage Blow damage, but being able to actually deal that damage to enemies is still super good. And, I was killing enemies like Reinhardt, Bravelyn, like armors with distant counter pretty easily with Elise with Hone Cavalry. And enemies weren't able to counter because she has a Dazzling Staff enhancement. So yeah, here's the team comp, as I kind of showed you guys. First of all, 2 cavalries with 3 positions. Same reasoning, high movement, being able to skirt around enemy ranges, being able to position your units properly, and the same reason that I have a Dancer. So why these guys in specific? Well, we'll get to it. So here we have Brave Roy. The reason we have Brave Roy here instead of any other unit is because I feel like Brave Roy is the best unit in the game for taking out multiple low-health enemies. So imagine this scenario, perchance. You get 4 enemies on an enemy arena team. You chunk them all with Elise, and they all have 1 health now. You know, you kill the first guy with Elise or Lynn or both, and then the second guy, or well, I should say the next 3 guys, you can take out with Roy and a healer, and a dancer, I should say. You know, Roy hits the first guy, he gets a charge, 2 charges of his Gale Force because Heavy Blade. You know, he gets dance, he hits the second guy, kills him because, again, they're both at 1 health. Gets another charge on his Heavy Blade, pops Gale Force, kills the third guy. He's able to kill, like, large amounts of trash mobs, I guess you could call them. So that's why I have Brave Roy here. Brave Lynn is kind of meant to, like, assist in killing enemies that are caught out a little bit. She's able to, like, get the enemies from a decent away range, and then you can get her right back out with, like, a reposition or whatever. So yeah, she's meant for picking out enemies. She's really good for that. And she also kind of helps out Elise with, like, the ranged poke. And then we have Inigo here. The reason we have Inigo as our dancer instead of anybody else, I was originally planning on running Axtra, actually, but then I realized that her hone buffs on her weapon don't actually matter because I have all the cavalry support buffs. And the cavalry support buffs cancel out those Axtra buffs because they're higher and hones work like that. So instead I have Inigo here, and the reason it's Inigo is because one of the few things that's you could do against this build is have multiple enemies on multiple sides that are, like, separate, that are running at them at a pretty fast rate. So, for example, say you have a Brave Lynn to the far left and a Reinhardt to the far right. You're not going to be able to get them both in with the same gravity. So that's why Inigo's here. He's able to take care of one side so you can focus entirely on the other side. So yeah, that's the comp. We'll get into it. Like I said, I have a lot of fun using this build, and we'll try to challenge ourselves to take 0 damage on anybody during the entire run, so let's hope we can get to it. It's important to say, I feel like this build is actually a little bit harder to run than normal stuff, and the reason I say that is because the 2 main meta stuff right now is, you know, you either have really high offensive stats and you run them down, you're hyper aggressive, or you have really high defensive stats, you're a rock, you let the enemies just run to you and kill themselves on you. In both cases, you try to get this over with as fast as possible and you just get buttloads of damage on enemies. With this comp, you don't run as fast as you can to the enemies, and you don't get the enemies to run as fast as they can to you. Instead, you kind of skirt around them. You know, you try to bide your time, you try to stall, you try to take advantage of the chunking, take advantage of the gravity, and then you strike when it works most. I wouldn't say that this is the most quick way to take care of stuff, but it's the most effective way, in my opinion. And again, it's why I win so much and takes a little damage with this stuff. Okay, now singers kind of suck when you're playing this stuff, singers and dancers, because if there's an enemy dancer, you want to kill them as fast as possible. You're also able to dance the guys at you gravity, and then the enemies are able to move further than 1 space, which kind of defeats the entire purpose of this, you know, build. So we're gonna try to take care of Azura here. I'm actually kind of scared of her dancing stuff here. Let's see. Wow, all the drawbacks, huh? Okay, we'll try to put Elise up here and Inigo up here. Who has the hones? Lynn does. So I'll put her next to Elise. Maybe something like this. Oh, perfect. She moved first. I think she'll actually continue to move first. At least I hope anyway. Okay. So Reinhardt's actually a little scary here. Let's see. We can hit Nino here. And we can see if we can get out of her range since she's gravitied. So we hit her. I can reposition her with Lynn. Then Lynn is here. Reinhardt can hit here though. Lynn is here. Elise is here. We reposition Elise. And then dance Lynn. Yeah, I think that works. And Azura doesn't have Wings of Mercy, so that's really nice. Okay. Boom. Okay, nice. Now we can kill the Axura, dance to Lyn, we get out of the way, and from here it should be relatively easy. Okay. So the enemies are nice and separated. Am I able to kill the Reinhardt here without taking any damage? Good. No! Ah, he has Vantage, so the Lyn will get hit. I'd normally do this, but I don't want to take any damage. Alright, here you go. Okay, so we're so far so good with the challenge. You saw how we were able to keep Nino back there, stall her out until we got her into a more favorable position, kill her, and then we're able to send in Lyn to assassinate the Azura there. Was this horse emblem? Oh boy. Alright, let's see. Normally I'd put Inigo in front of Reinhardt, but as usual I don't want to take damage for this challenge, I guess you could call it. So instead, usually you want to put Elise as close to the action as possible, because you want her to be able to get in as deep as possible to hit enemies. Okay. That's unfortunate that she has the speed buffs here. Okay. I say that we bide our time and hope for a more favorable situation later. I think this is more favorable because now she doesn't have nearly as much ability to do stuff, and also these guys are further away. Okay. So I hit her, they both have one move, then Lyn's range becomes here. So I hit her with Elise, then I can reposition Elise out of the way with Lyn. I can move Inigo here, dance Elise, move her out of the way, and then reposition Lyn back with Roy. Okay. Better yet, maybe I'm able to just kill Lyn here. And since Ike is gravitied, he won't be able to come in and kill Elise. I think that's actually better. This is one of the perks, like I said, of having the high damage character running the gravity stuff. Sometimes you can take advantage of it and you can do stuff like that. So here... Oh, wow, that's unfortunate. So I can take one of two paths, and I think I'll take this one. I'll take the slower path. I could have done some spicy stuff here, but... Okay. God, why, Reinhardt? Why do you have to do damage? Does he have Vantage? He doesn't have Vantage. I apologize for not talking there. I was actually thinking super hard. Alright, no damage. Boom. So again, you saw we played slow there, and we were able to take out enemies one at a time as they separate themselves, and then we artificially separate them through the use of gravity. And we're still 0 for 0. So good job. And I hope to go against like some armor emblem or something. Ah, man, these Azuras everywhere, man. I swear. Okay. Again, we want to move Elise close to the action here. Does she have Vantage? She does not have Vantage. So I'm able to deal, what, 24 damage naturally here? That is enough. Oh, man. But I want to actually come in and kill this Lyn, too. This is actually kind of unfortunate positioning. I can kill everybody here. Oh, I might fail the 0 damage thing. Because Lucina might come down here, get danced, and then come in here and kind of mess with me. I will try to deal with it as best I can. Okay. Not ideal positioning, but... Oh, okay. So I'm able to avoid taking any damage. We might still be in this. Okay, I can one-shot Lyn here. Oh. Does she have Vantage? She has Vantage in this encounter. God, why do all these enemies just hate me? Alright. So I'm able to do this here. She doesn't have Vantage, right? She does not have Vantage. There you go. Boom. So, 0 damage, still rocking it. Last match, guys. And you see how this could be useful for higher level content, right? If the enemies have such high stats that they are able to one-shot you, and you are not able to deal more than 1 damage to them, you're still able to actually kill the enemies. Oh, God. Everywhere, dude. Always dancers. And this is like one of my least favorite maps. God, I wish I could put in and go there. Okay, I might actually die here. But just keep in mind that I'm doing this for science. Aw, man, I took damage. That's unfortunate. Darn, enemies having to be so annoying, right? Wow, come on. These guys have like super high defense. Okay. This might be our opportunity here. Are you serious? I might just be destroyed by this Olivia. Okay, Hector, we get it, you vape. Well, there you go. I was at least able to clean up. That was actually super unfortunate. Yeah, that was actually super unfortunate. So we did not pass the 0 damage challenge, I guess, which really sucks. And you can blame the combination of this map and this freaking character for that. And the fact that she's freaking Wait, I think that I actually just lose here. You know, I'll take the L there. That was some trash and a half, though. I'm a play another game. That was sad. I can't go out like that, you know? I'm out here flexing. Then I Come on, man. Why this guy have to ruin my freaking perfect run? At least this is easy enough. Alright, see, if I'm willing to take damage, I will admit that this team comp is significantly better. I was just trying to show off. Maybe the fact that I'm playing these extra games will make up for the fact that I fucked up. Okay. Focus on biding our time. Hitting enemies when it's favorable. Slowly chunking down the enemies. And taking advantage of movement ranges. There, you see? I promise you I'm not bad at this game. Okay. Well, aside from that junk game there, you see I probably, let's listen. If I wasn't so focused on not taking damage early game and putting myself in like such a disadvantaged position, as well as being salty afterwards and probably making some subpar moves, I probably could have won that. But aside from that, you guys saw how this team comp can play out, and you know how fun it could be, and how this could work pretty well for harder content in PvE or something. So yeah, it's super fun to play. You know, I have a blast playing with this. And yeah, aside from that, hope you guys liked it. Bye.